and we're gonna have fun. The Leafy Tree Channel is lots of fun, and I hope that you enjoy what we do here, especially here on the Leafy Tree Podcast. On that note, talking about collabs, talking about the podcast, let me introduce to you Vimbert. And Vimbert, welcome to the Leafy Tree Podcast. And I appreciate you taking time out of your night because typically you're streaming at this time, so usually you don't run into my podcast, but I clash into your streams, and I've rated you a few times from this.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me. I I am a variety streamer here on Twitch, and when you approached me for this to give a little bit of a peek of how the sausage is made, I was like, oh, okay, sure, but I know you're always live with the podcast when I'm streaming. Can I see like an example of your interview? And you were like, oh, my Twitch VODs have poofed.
Right.
Also, I have to say, before I forget, I'm in awe of how far ahead you schedule things. I'm struggling to get things out the week of. But
Well, I really try because I think, and you know this as a streamer and the group of people that we're friends with and that we're friends, just how quickly things can change and a schedule can fall apart really easily in our world.
exactly. Uh, I know exactly how that goes. As you can probably tell if you're watching the video of the podcast, I'm not a cam streamer, so you just have that little picture. Sorry if that's weird, but I'm just a voice.
I think that's something that we can maybe start off talking about is your choice to do that. One of the other things is as we go through our game talk, people, if you have ideas of streamers who need their channel promoted
Mm.
or things like that, let me know, and then we'll have them on just like Vimbert is. Also, one thing I like to do, Vimbert, is I have a drawer full of t-shirts that I don't really wear in public because it's not like they're inappropriate, but it's not like they're appropriate to go wear out in the community that I live in. So I'm wearing the Muppets t-shirt tonight. So
Nice.
that's what we're doing tonight.
I'm a huge Muppets fan, but I have a good friend who's actually a super fan. Like incorporated, God, I've forgotten exactly how he did it, but he incorporated like his and his then fiance's like favorite Muppet song into like proposing to her, or I guess it would have been girlfriend at that time. So I
Right.
respect for the
Oh,
Muppets, and I know just how deep that can go.
yeah.
um, but
I appreciate that. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, as far as me not using a face cam, it's kind of a funny story. It started out with just uh because, and this is something I'm not sure if a lot of people know, even those who might watch me from time to time. I was, I guess you could call me a former or failed YouTuber. I do post my VODs on YouTube now, but I was trying to be like an actual Let's Play YouTuber back in, God, 2015, something like that. And so I bought a terrible, like $30 webcam, and that's still the only webcam I have. And it was kind of the combination of I wouldn't have the best video quality for my face camming, and also back in the YouTube days, one of the most common comments I would get, the feedback I would get was, "Hey, can you have not your face there?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." Plus, it's
Yeah,
just
that's never
like
fun.
I feel like, if I did a big face reveal, it'd be like, whoa, it's another white guy. Like, I'm just a dude.
I hear you, and I think that, and there's a little more I think to the story that we can get into here. Again, Vimbert is a friend of mine, a friend through Twitch. We knew each other. Well, I guess we basically knew each other back in high school, but we never hung out because I believe you're enough older than me, Vimbert, that we weren't quite
Yeah,
like we didn't run in the same groups, kind of a thing.
we didn't cross paths super often.
Right. So Vimbert and I have known each other for quite some time, and that leads to our other friends. And Vimbert, you being part of Take the Shot Media, talk a little bit about Take the Shot Media, and then we can kind of jump into you being the you being the voice streamer, Hugh Gaming being the video streamer, and then Valen Ironclad being the VTuber right now. And it's kind of funny because it's like the trifecta, and that's what's making up Take the Shot Media right now.
Yes, the Triforce, if you will. Um,
Right.
Take the Shot Media is very much, it's not, I feel like sometimes people get an idea that it's like a monolithic, like, thing. We're not like an agency or anything. We're just a collection of friends, and in fact, Hugh and Evelyn are brothers in real life.
Mhm.
But Hugh wanted to get into the streaming thing, and I'd been a YouTuber, and I'd flirted with the idea of streaming before, and kind of we all pushed each other to get started and be a little more serious about it at the same time. I believe the Take the Shot name came from a crazy moment that happened fairly early on in one of Hugh's Halo streams. He had a series where he was playing through all the Halo games in sequence, and I believe it was, he was almost about to die, and his co-op partner, like, had a clean shot on the boss or something. He was like, take the shot! So, that just kind of stuck. Though it's kind of, I don't know how many people who stumble across us now know that story. I feel like we don't do a good job explaining that. But hey, now I have, albeit poorly.
I was just gonna say, I think you did a great job explaining it. I wouldn't say it was done poorly by any means. I think that you're right. And luckily I've had Hugh and Avalon on, so we've been able to talk a little bit about Take the Shot Media. I think each one of them have talked about that story, and so it's just a good reminder. And it's one of those things where, again, it's a collective. We're a collective group of friends. I am not part of Take the Shot Media, although this is my call out to Hugh Gaming right now that says, "What the hell, man?" But but as a group of friends that enjoy a lot of the same things and doing things together, what what kind of value do you put on being part of this team?
Hmm. It's, I feel like I have kind of a weird view on it because Hugh is very much the driving force behind it. He's always been big about growing it. I enjoy being part of it, but I don't like. I mean, Hugh is basically the leader of it. He got this started. Does a lot of the organizational work. Avalon has, our abbreviation in his Twitch username. I'm just kind of vibing. I'm just kind of here. Like, I wouldn't want to break away from these guys, but I feel like I contribute just by doing my own thing because I feel like there we do enjoy a lot of the same things, but we also have very different game choices. Like I guess I haven't done a great job of explaining what I do aside from just variety streaming. So I do take part in Pokeboomers, which is kind of Take the Shots Media's big project. We nuzlocke through Pokemon week by week, and I'm kind of the clueless idiot in that. I had barely played Pokemon before we started doing this, so I've been learning a lot. I also have a stream I do on Saturdays called Shuffle Saturday, where I play a different random game every 30 minutes. And it's everything from awful Barbie and Mary Kate and Ashley licensed games on the Game Boy Color to actual good games on Steam. Uh, so I feel like I have very eclectic and out there game choices compared to. I don't want to say, Hugh or Valen play to the mainstream. They absolutely don't. They're not trying to hop on anything like right on release. And, this is not an indirect call out to you being excited about Sonic Frontiers. Would never take that away from you. But my philosophy as far as putting stuff out there and making content is always I I want to make things that I would want to watch as a theoretical viewer, and I would want to see just strange out there games I might not have heard of or presented in a weird way because I feel like if I do something a little more common, I want to put a twist on it like we do with Pokeboomers. So a roundabout answer, but like I have, I guess you could say, like a quiet pride of being a part of this group.
And I think that you're exactly right, and I think it's great the way you've put it, Vimbert, is that you the games that you choose and the way you stream is different from the other two. Each of you guys has a unique way of streaming and a unique skill set and game set that match your skill sets. And
Mhm.
so that's what makes it kind of cool. And I think a partnership that you guys have, that Take the Shot Media has, between you three, it really works out like you say, because you're all doing something different, and I think I hope that's driving people to explore Avalon, explore Hugh, explore you from each other's channels, because you're able to weave so I don't want to say flawlessly, but you're able to weave together this team.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak specifically for Hugh and Valen, but I have, because, Twitch has analytics on that sort of thing, and there is a fair amount of overlap between us. So, I think people appreciate having the different kinds of variety instead of just, stream team that might just be just, they all do Minecraft, and, they're going to have different ways of doing Minecraft, but at the end of the day, they're all doing Minecraft. We have this one strong commonality that is Poke Boomers, and then we have different things like Hugh has Take the Shot Tuesdays, where he's been doing some co-op games with friends. Valen has all kinds of things. Valen goes nuts. His biggest thing now is Shin Megami Tensei. I've got Shuffle Saturday. I've got Sin Day, which is another thing I should probably talk about, where basically any game where you can be like a jerk to NPCs or just be an outright villain, I just pick every evil choice. At my protagonists in those games, they are not, they do not have no redeeming qualities. There's no noble thing about them. They're just there to do the evil things that you might not want to do, but I will go down that dark path for my viewers. So, you get the variety.
Right, and I think that that's the great thing about Twitch is, and we were talking before the podcast here on Discord, talking about oh man, I'm in a lot of Discord servers, and I think every streamer, if not, well, yeah, almost every streamer, including myself, you guys, I don't know if you have a personal one, but Take the Shot Media has a Discord, and so you start to get kind of deep into a dozen, 15 Discord servers. Same thing on Twitch is I don't know how many people I'm following on Twitch, Vimbert, but
Yeah.
it seems to be it's kind of that algorithm or that same thing where following certain games because I like those games, but a lot of people I follow play League of Legends and they always
Mm.
play League of Legends or they always are playing God of War Ragnarok right now because they played the other one. And so a call out to those people that are just starting on that escapade. But I think that it's just that's again what you three are doing different, and what you do different is that you guys all play something that is kind of I'm gonna say off the beaten path, and it's something that can intrigue people and draw them in. And we'll talk about those games here in a second. But I just think that
Yeah.
that's one of the great things you guys are doing.
Certainly, and I actually have very strong feelings about this. I have nothing but respect for people who just have one game and that's what they stream. That's their staple. They always go back to that, and that's like the majority of what they do. I feel like I would lose my mind. I couldn't do
Right.
that. Also, I like to use this example. I won't name her name, but it's a Twitch streamer that I followed for a while, and she was just very into Fall Guys. Like she was in Twitch Rivals, did very well, was in a lot of different tournaments, collabed with some big names, and then just kind of realized that Fall Guys wasn't fun for her. And so after doing nothing but streaming Fall Guys, she started changing it up, doing different games, and I saw her numbers just crater. And she was trying to do it for a living, and it was really disheartening to see, and kind of like I took a lesson from that. Like, I feel like it's more important to just not tie yourself too closely to one game, because eventually you're going to run out of things you can do with one game. You can invent challenges ad nauseum, but you're going to run out of things for one game. You're going to want to play something else. And in that case, I think you should set the expectation for people that, hey, I play this thing and we like this thing. You like this thing, but it's not going to be just this thing.
hmm And I think that, and thanks for saying that, Vimbert, because I think one of the things, and it'll take away from my question towards the end. I usually ask, "What's your advice?" And I think that's great advice here at the beginning. Is is starting off as a variety streamer, or at least having a handful of games that you're good at or you like, because then you can start there, and like you say, you have a rotation in your back pocket to work with because you can only do so much. And then
Exactly.
in that scenario, um, all the people who like Fall Guys, they show up on your Fall Guys night, and all the people who like Mario show up on Mario night, and who like
Right.
Kirby, they show up on that day because that's again how the algorithm kind of functions.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I've heard the advice before: treat your schedule like it's a TV schedule. There's Seinfeld at 7 p.m. There's the Leafy Tree podcast at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays, and you come here on Wednesday at 7 p.m. You get the Leafy Tree podcast.
Right. Well, usually. Sometimes it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes late, but we try.
Well, right, we're all only human. We're not some monolithic mega billion-dollar corporation that can set that things up.
That's true. We're talking with Vimbert. As you can see, his Twitch is off there to, well, I guess it's off to my left on the screen left, I suppose. And so, Vimbert is his stream channel here on Twitch. And, yeah, we'll start talking about the games a little bit. But I do want to make a comment about how we don't know if you might actually be a monolithic because we don't see your face or anything, so we don't know for sure. You might just be a billionaire that's doing this on the side to get kicks and gigs, you know.
You got me. I'm Elon Musk. You know, I get sick of getting blasted on Twitter. Just, you know, I come here and hang.
And then
Clearly.
you you just said you're Elon Musk, and I went from 4 viewers to 0. So it's no, I'm just kidding. Um, No, we're talking with Vimbert, and Vimbert is the Twitch channel. Um, Vimbert, you do a lot of different games, and let's start off with kind of the company theme, I guess we'll call it. You mentioned it. Take the Shot Media has, I think, a pretty good following and a great group of people that we've been working together with, including myself. I do not play in the campaign of Pokeboomers, but I get to be part of the showdown later. Talk a little bit about your Pokeboomers experience again. I'll explain it a little bit unless you would like to go into more details. But Pokeboomers is a Nuzlocke that was created by Hugh Gaming. And I shouldn't say the Nuzlocke was created by him, but he was
Yeah.
Nuzlocking Pokemon, and then he added some of his own twists to those to that Nuzlocke, and basically called it a Hugh Lock. And you and Availing kind of jumped on board,
Hmm.
and here we are. It's been
Yeah.
very popular. You guys are just getting close to wrapping up season 4 or generation 4, and talk about your experience again as a guy that you mentioned earlier. It's kind of been you're the one that's maybe a little behind when it comes to the knowledge side
Sure.
on that.
So Pokeboomers, just to expand on it, it's we Nuzlocke week by week, generation by generation, gym by gym, through the Pokemon games, and there's also a PvP component using Pokemon Showdown. We will battle with our current Nuzlocke teams for additional points and glory, and whoever wins the point showdown at the end of the season gets to add a rule and credit where credit's due. Hugh used a group called Blastburn Radio as the inspiration when coming up with a lot of the rules, but you know we do things slightly differently from them in a lot of little ways. And I also need to give a small shout out. I'm sure it was unintentional, but I will not stand for Zed Erasure. In the first 2 seasons, we had a different third member, Zedward of Play Together, Stay Together. He decided to. We had, not in a drama filled way, but we had creative differences. He wanted to do different things. Hugh and I kind of wanted to take it in another direction, so we brought Avalon on instead. My Pokemon knowledge, as I mentioned, it was extremely limited. As a young boy, I played a lot of Gen 2. My copy of Silver, I must have played through 6 or 7 times. I actually got to see things like Shinies and Pokerus as a kid. So I knew that game backwards and forwards, and then I basically set it down. I don't remember why. I think it was probably, you know, the kid thing like, oh, Pokemon's for babies. And I didn't pick it up back up again until college when I had a roommate who was very into Pokemon, and I was like, you know what? All right, let me pick up a copy of Pokemon White and try it out. And I have to be honest with you, I played all the way up till the Elite Four. I don't remember a single thing that was in that game. It made
Wow.
no lasting impression on me whatsoever. So I retained nothing from that. I also did play through Heart Gold and Soul Silver because you know that was just basically victory lap for Gen 2. So when this all started, I'd never played Red, Blue, Yellow, Fire Red, or Leaf Green. I had not experienced the original Kanto journey that's so nostalgic for so many people. So I came in, you know, having expectations like, okay, I know these Pokemon were part of the original 115. They were really good in Gen 2, but they might not be as good in Gen 1. And there were a few other surprises. Like I got my favorite Pokemon for a long time was Pidgeot and the Pidgey line. But I caught my Pidgey. I was like, all right, yes, Pidgey. I knew it would get one. All right, I've got early flying coverage. Why is Gust normal type?
Right.
So I do a lot of. We have kind of reflected in the different approaches we have to streaming. Avalen, Hugh, and I have very different approaches to Pokeboomers. Hugh does lots of meticulous research. He's played these games before. He will like know the encounter rates down cold, like what the trainers are going to send out, everything. I just because I don't have the background Pokemon knowledge, I will look up a little bit. Like I'll see, you know, what moves a Pokemon can use, its typing if I'm unfamiliar, gym leader details, just so I can stay kind of on an even playing field for the PvP portion, but otherwise I go in blind. I spend a lot of time wandering around caves because I have no sense of direction, but I'm also stupidly lucky. Like, for example, last
Vim
week,
luck.
Vim Luck, yes, that's even an emote I have on my channel. That was coined there. Because I do things like I go into a route and I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be crazy if I encountered a Chansey that Hugh said has a 5% chance, so then I could use Blissey? First in Pokemon I run into in the glass, it's Chansey! And,
Wow.
you know, having a Pokemon out that has a Time Sword weakness to Ice against a Steelix, and it uses Ice Fang, I'm like, oh, it can learn that? Oh no, that's going to kill me. And it misses when it has a 95% accuracy. So, my playthroughs are often very chaotic, and I usually have some panicking in the chat as people are like, Vim, why did you do that? I'm like, I don't know! And, to round it out, we have a Valen who has all that background knowledge. He's played a lot of Pokemon before, but he looks up nothing. He looks up actually nothing. He just goes in completely blind, like, doesn't avoid double battles. Usually Hugh and I are, like, watching, we're like, oh, God, Avalen, what are you doing? So,
I think that he does some research, but it comes down to like mostly like major gyms or something where he's like, oh, I need to know a move set on, whoever it is, Snover or whatever, and so then he looks it up quick. But other than that, you're exactly right, Vimbert. He just
okay.
walks in and he's like, oh yeah. Nico Mew, welcome, and welcome to everybody else who's watching. This is my friend Vimbert, and you can
Hello.
follow him here on Twitch at Vimbert. Nico Mew, my knowledge of Pokemon is a good 3 out of 10. And Nico Mew and I, Vimbert, grew up together. Nico Mew and I grew up together, Vimbert, and so she played a lot of Pokemon. She's probably the one who got me into Pokemon first, and so she might have questions, or you might be able to have some questions as well. And anybody in here,
Sure.
please, this is very interactive. Ask questions. We're talking about Vimbert's channel here on Twitch. He's part of Take the Shot Media. We're talking about Pokeboomers, which is a glorified Nuzlocke. And then what happens? You guys are in Generation 4. You tonight, actually, just before the podcast, you wrapped up Gym 8, correct?
Yes, I defeated Volkner, and I did it. Part of our point structure is we can do what we call hard mode for gyms, where you clear the entire gym, trainers, leader, everything, without using a super effective move. Which is something that I think adds a lot of interesting strategy, because you have to try and think, okay, what Pokemon are going to be good but not perfect for this gym? And to illustrate my level of knowledge for Pokemon, for example, like when we got to Gen 3 and they introduced abilities, I was like, what in God's name are abilities?
Right.
I don't know what these are. And case in point, I see your question in chat, Neko. I don't know what Flygon is. Is Flygon in Gen 3 or Gen 4? I don't think I've run into it.
Would be Gen 3, I believe.
Okay, let me look it up real fast.
Oh,
that's the ground dragon. Yeah, I like the look of that. But yeah, so that probably perfectly encapsulates. I don't have a big depth of knowledge of Pokemon. I'm just bumbling through these games more or less blind.
Remember, you passed the test. Liking Flygon was the correct answer for Nico Mew. One of the things that's also, as you mentioned, as we talked about just a little bit ago with Pokeboomers, is that from week to week, you guys have your broadcasts, and you take on gyms, you take on your rival, you do against the Team X, Rocket, Galactic, whoever it is, and it's all noted in the streams. There's a little bit of grinding. I don't know if you do. I know Hughes talked about it. Avalen has talked about how they grind a little bit off stream, because I know in the first 2 generations, it was a little difficult and completely understandable that you'd lose viewers kind of halfway through, because all you're doing is running in the grass back and forth trying to grind 2 or 3 Pokemon, and it wasn't, not that it can't be fun, but it gets to be a little bit tiresome on the viewer side.
Oh yeah, I definitely do that. Not to the I'll call him out a little bit. Not to the insane degree that Hugh does. Hugh will just I'll see him casually open up his PC on stream and he has 20 Pokemon at level 46. I'm like, what the fuck? But I absolutely do some grinding off stream just because, like you said, it's not the most interesting thing to watch. I do quote unquote grinding podcast sometimes, if need be, but I just don't think that's very interesting to watch. And also, lets me cheat around the Nuzlocke rules and actually KO Pokemon. Oh god, I'm not supposed to say that. Cut that out. No. I think it's a good thing to do, and plus, it would make for a weird experience because so far I've been playing on the version, Diamond and Pearl, that has a lower level cap according to our rules. So usually we have to give a level or two after the gym to be ready for Friday's PvP. So I think it would be weird. And again, kind of my maxim for creating content is, what would I want to watch? Well, I wouldn't want to see a guy go through a gym, maybe struggle and like have a glorious victory and then be like, okay, guys, we're just going to run around in the grass for 40 minutes. What's up? How's it going? It's just weird pacing. I don't like it. So, yeah. And credit where credit's due. I think it was Zedward, our former host in the first 2 seasons, who suggested that. And Hugh and I were like, yeah, absolutely, that's okay. So it's...
Right.
It also, would you really want to see all 3 of us EV train every member of our team live? No, that would be awful.
It gets, I guess, for lack of a better term, it gets old fairly fast, and then
Yes,
it's hard to, and there's more things to be had and done, and that's in some of those battles and team battles and so on and so forth.
yeah,
As
that's
we
really
talk
the
about
meat of the
this,
experience.
right? As we talk about this on my lo-fi video game playing right now is the Cinewood City song lo-fi, so I
Nice.
turned it up a little bit. Petty Virgo, good to see you here. Nico Muse says, right now I'm playing a Pokemon ROM hack of Emerald. All the Pokemon are fusions and are pretty random, and I'm struggling.
Mm.
Did not before Pokeboomers, or maybe it was when Pokeboomers started, but Avalon also played, like, was it Pokemon Shamrock or something? And it's like the Korean version, and it's very not
Ah,
PC and not um and not nothing's correct. It's bad. It's
sure.
bad. Pokemon Clover, yes, Nico,
Okay.
that's what it is. Pokemon Clover. Um, we're
I actually,
talking with Vimbert. Sorry, I interrupted you, Vimbert, and I wanted to
that's
let you
fine.
know that this is a mature stream, you and our viewers. So yes, we
Ah,
might say fuck once in a while, or shit, or I
okay.
stubbed my toe. Damn it, you know. So
I
it's
forgot to ask you
okay.
about that shit.
No, it's all good. Um,
That's
fast forward to the
I
Pokemon. Yeah.
I actually did not know that Avalon did that, but I
Oh,
myself did a very short-lived playthrough of Pokemon Vietnamese Crystal. Are you familiar with that particular ROM
oh,
hack?
I think I am, but tell me a
Yeah,
little bit about
it's
it.
so it's Pokemon Crystal, the classic Gen 2 game that has been translated it's been translated back and forth like machine translated from like 4 different languages. So yeah, Nico knows. So there are things where like they call an item volcano bake meat, or if you get an item, it says your character bag fuck, and like you can kind of like trace it back, and you're like, okay, you put the thing in the bag. I can understand where they're going from, but then there are other things like Scratch is called prize, and so just everything becomes a confusing swirl of nonsense and
Oh,
unintentional hilarity.
interesting, interesting. We'll finish talking about Pokeboomers and talk more about other things. Again, we're talking with Vimbert. His Twitch is Vimbert here on Twitch, and you know, one of the things also to go with, and then I'm gonna have to backtrack myself once we finish talking about Pokeboomers. The fun thing I like about Pokeboomers, well, I like it all, and it's really hard for me to keep track of all 3 of you guys.
Mm.
I pop in once in a while and see what's going on. But I really enjoy the podcast when I can jump in, talk a little bit about the podcast that you guys do at the end of the week and what happens with Pokeboomers and Pokeboomers After Dark.
Yeah, so the podcast that we do is, when we were structuring this whole thing, we wanted to be very clear that, nobody overlaps Pokeboomers streams with each other. So if you want to be like a crazy super fan and watch every stream, you can technically catch every stream live, but we recognize that most people don't got time for that. Or,
Right.
people might not like my style or Avalan's style or Hugh's style. So we get together on Friday and we go over our weeks in Nuzlocke. We kind of summarize the big struggles, the good catches, any crazy things that happened, go over any Pokemon that we lost along the way. And then we enter our teams into Pokemon Showdown and go head to head with each other for additional points with the odd man out kind of shoutcasting, kind of taking your job there. Though it is always great every time we can get you for the Grand Prix that we hold between seasons. Adds a lot to
I
it, I
appreciate
think.
that.
And then we also have Pokeboomers After Dark, which is what we have members of the community who are willing to play along with us, more or less using our rule set. We let them be looser on some things because, Nuzlocking is a lot. We're very happy for anyone who wants to put in the time to follow along with us. At the end of the day, we just want them to have fun and just not have a huge advantage in the rule set. So, for example, we have someone who's followed along very faithfully with us, Inception 7. And in Gen 3, the poor guy, he caught, I think, 7 or 8 shiny Pokemon, which is crazy. That's awesome.
Oh, wow. I
But
had no idea.
Pokeboomers has a rule where if you catch a shiny, you must use it. So that was a nightmare for building a team as far as taking on gyms and doing PvP. And we said, you know what, dude, just don't worry about it. Just bring the team you want. And After Dark, we bring members of the community on the call with us and kind of have a more relaxed, freeform chat as they battle each other and they also battle us. Usually it's people who know way more about Pokemon than us, so we usually get our lunch money taken. But every once in a while, we can surprise them. Hugh usually has a pretty decent showing. Avalan, pretty good. I usually just go out there and get my ass kicked pretty uniformly. I was very excited this last week that I managed to win once in one of the community battles, but I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to be there, and it's great to have those guys following along with us.
Valen he was on kind of a win streak up till last week, so you must have ended it. I didn't catch that one. But talk a little bit
Yes.
about your success in the competition part of it, because if I'm not mistaken, Valen's lost the last 2 generations. He's fallen behind.
Correct. Yes. Because I feel like occasionally Hugh or Valen, they'll have lines that like they won't cross. Like Hugh recently, he could have done the hard mode challenge where we don't use super effective moves if he brought out a Blissey, but he was like, I can't. I'm not doing that. I have no such qualms. I'll use whatever underhanded strategy I gotta do to get ahead. In Gen 2, I did a lot of like paralyze, confuse ray, spam bite. I think there was one time where in Gen 2, poor Zed, I was fighting his Pokemon, which was objectively better, and I got something like 6 bite flinches in a row, so we just didn't get to play the game. So it's a combination of the luck that I meme on, but it is kind of a thing, and also just being willing to take kind of big risks. I think I hard mode quite a lot when I can, and just having a certain ruthlessness. Like, I lose some Pokemon along the way, which usually gets me some points dinged, but, if I consider, just cold-heartedly taking a Pokemon out behind the shed to die to allow me to beat a gym hard mode, because, hey, that's a net 10-point gain, despite the death.
Right.
So I think it's a combination of those factors. I've also gotten pretty good at reading my opponents. So sometimes I can just make a pretty clever switch. I think I've gotten pretty good at that. I've heard of the Pokemon MMO, Nekomew, but we haven't discussed it. We might at some point. I think our focus right now is playing through the main Pokemon generations, but hey, maybe that's a thing to do after we catch up to Game Freak.
Right. You guys are just wrapping up Generation 4, or getting very close to wrapping up Generation 4.
Yes. Oh, and I'm
yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but I also have to be perfectly honest. I think Avalan would be beating me this season if he hadn't, and I think it was his first stream, or maybe his second.
Yep.
He wandered into a rival fight early and got all his team wiped out. And under our rules, that's a huge point negative. He started the first couple weeks at negative points, and he just had to claw his way back. So he would be beating me if not for that. So not game overing, I guess I could also credit with my success. I don't know. Like I said, I have an idea of what I'm doing in Pokemon, but I'm probably the least experienced out of us three, so some of it's just dumb luck. I'll cop to that.
I think that's part. It goes back to him not doing any research, where maybe you've done
Right.
some, and he walked into something that he'd forgotten about. So you guys are wrapping up Generation 4 Pokeboomers. You can catch Pokeboomers on Vimbert's channel on what day?
Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then on Fridays, Hugh Gaming hosts the podcast where we go head to head on Pokemon Showdown.
That's Hugh_gaming on
Yes.
Fridays. And then, we've got plans, I imagine, in the works. I have no details. I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes, but plans are in the works to do another big Grand Prix for Generation 4 in Pokemon Showdown. If you're a Pokemon fan, go check out PokemonShowdown.com, I believe it is, and check it out. Let me confirm that quick.
Play.PokemonShowdown.com. Yes.
Play.PokemonShowdown.com. Right now, there are 2,608 active battles happening, and you can choose to watch a battle. I can click on it right now, and I could bring it over to my other screen here if we wanted to. All formats, obviously, but I like to look at some of the earlier generations, 1, 2, 3, and sometimes 4. I know nothing about the newest generation, so I've kept away from that. I know a little bit about 5 and 6. 6, 7, 8 is kind of where I'm lost, but anyway, play.PokemonShowdown.com. You can create your own team, play with other people across the world, online, whatever. It's lots of fun.
Yeah, and
Vimbert is part of a group that does it, so.
they also have, if you don't want the stress of building a team, they have formats where they will give you a completely random team, and you will fight another completely random team. That I honestly do that to help me train for some of the new seasons. I do a little bit of that just to get an idea. Like, I'll just get a team, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what any of these are. And as my opponent starts to impatiently hit the like countdown timer, I'm like, okay, that one is water, that one is electric ghost.
Right. I was today somebody shared on Facebook. It's like, what type of Pokemon would you be? And it's like your birth month and your date, right? The day. And so I'm like, okay, looking, and I'm like, okay, ghost, sweet. And I went to the day. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be a ghost. Cool.
That reminds me of I don't know if you ever saw it, but it was one of those. It was in that format where it was month and day. It was like, what is your werewolf name? And one of the combinations you could get was Moon. And so it became a small meme where it was just like a really kind of silly looking wolf, like, and everybody being like, God damn it, Moon. Similar energy with Ghost.
We're talking with Vimbert. Vimbert is here on Twitch. You can see there. Go. I encourage you to go follow Vimbert and give him a like, give him a follow, and plays a lot of games. We're not done yet. Don't worry, folks. I'm just taking a little time to explain who Vimbert is. Vimbert doesn't show his face anywhere. Well, I shouldn't say that. He shows it some places, I imagine, in public, but not on the internet.
Although, actually, somebody could theoretically force me to face reveal circa 7 years ago. I do have a point redeem on my channel that's like, hey, Vimbert used to be a YouTuber in 2015. All those videos are unlisted now, but if you want to make him react to his past cringe, do it. And I did face cam back then. So I don't think I could dodge it if someone wanted to make me do it.
You have to go sit in your channel for a long time and build up a bunch of points.
Yeah, I make it very expensive because I really don't want to do that.
Can I share a name thing real quick? I want to see what you guys get. Sure, yeah, go for it, Nico Mew. Absolutely, you can share something. Vimbert, we're talking with Vimbert. Vimbert here on Twitch. He's got a Twitter, but we talked about it previously. You can go search him out on Twitter if you like, but don't plan on too much happening there. What is your Benedict Cumberbatch name? Oh boy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the first letter of my first name is L, so I'm Burger King, and the last letter of your last name is should I go with the E in Leafy Tree or should I go with my actual last name?
A good question.
If we go
I
with
think
Leafy Tree, my name would be Burger King Humperdinck.
I think using Vimbert is funnier than my actual name, so mine would be Bedbug Number Crunch.
That's awesome. Hey, thanks Nico Mew for sharing that since we were talking about it, and it gives us a good time to take a break from talking about video games for a moment. What I forgot to do, Vimbert, is
Mhm.
we just jumped into it, which is great, and I love the energy you're giving me. But let's start over a little bit and talk about like what got you into video games. Why do you like video
Oh.
games? Or is it so? Unless it's some scary trauma that you don't want to get into, but why'd you start playing video games and then why'd you start streaming?
My dark backstory. Ah, yes. Video games were, I think, primarily. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, in the very farm north of the U.S. Very small community. So, not a whole lot of other kids around to make friends with, and I was kind of a weird, introverted little bookworm. And so, for me, it was kind of going from like, I used to be a voracious reader. I'm not good about it anymore, but I just read book after book after book and just like all these crazy worlds that books could take you to. And then somewhere along the line, I got introduced to video games, and it's like, oh, I can just be in those crazy worlds. I see. And I've always been very, since I became pretentious enough to think about such things, interested in the potential of video games as a storytelling medium, because I think there's a lot you can do with you being an active participant. I don't think a lot of games fully realize that, but when I started to realize that video games could have like really good stories or even just competent stories, that's what really sold me. I started up playing a lot of JRPGs from, the classic, I think it was Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars for the SNES that really got me into it, to your Final Fantasies, Dragon Quests, Tales of games. So that's kind of what got me into it. And that's still where a lot of my taste levels lie. Lie? I don't know what I just said. As far as streaming, it was very much being inspired by content creators I saw and I enjoyed. Way back in the day, I saw some Markiplier. I was like, okay, this is good. Also, some other ones along the way. There's Proton John, Luca Jin, this guy Manly Badass Hero, who I would say is probably my most direct inspiration. He's just kind of a guy who just kind of talks in a very calm, even tone, plays a lot of weird games. I'm making him sound like Critical, but he doesn't sound like Critical. And very story based games. And I was like, it'd be cool to try that once in a while. And I was a YouTuber back in the day. I flirted with the idea of streaming, but I didn't get serious about it until Hugh really pushed me into it. I see a couple of questions from the chat. I'm just going to dive right into
Yes,
those.
yeah, go ahead.
I think I still do pretty well at my reading level, Petty Virgo. I think the one thing that's definitely suffered is my reading speed. I can still get through visual novels at a pretty good clip, but when it comes to actual books, I can tell I'm not reading as quickly as I used to. And my favorite Tales of game, for a long time it was Tales of Vesperia, but I think I'd actually give it to Tales of Berseria. I love Velvet as a protagonist, and I love how you're very much an anti-hero, borderline on villain for a lot of the game, until it's like, oh, actually, no, what you're doing is like kind of good. I'm being very vague to avoid spoilers, and just the combat style in that game being fantastic.
I love Vesperia, but I think my favorite is Tales of the Abyss.
Tales of the Abyss is very high on my list as well. Fun fact, this was way back in high school, but I started playing Tales of the Abyss and I wasn't super up on it. And I I actually played through that whole game co-op with Hugh Gaming and Avalon. Just like in person, I would bring my PS2 over to their house and we would control three of the characters in battle. And that was probably some of the most fun I've had playing the Tales of games, because I didn't have to rely on the terrible AI. It was just me and friends, like, battling it out, enjoying the story. So,
That's
soft
awesome.
spot for that one.
We're talking with Vimbert, and you can follow Vimbert here on Twitch, and that's just his channel. Vimbert, and you do a lot of other games. Before we move on from your inspirations and Pokemon and Pokeboomers, if there's any questions, again, this is a very interactive podcast, everybody. So if you have any questions from chat, please type them up. And before we move on to some of your other games, Vimbert, I just think that it's great, and maybe something to prelude that, as people maybe think of questions, is what inspired you? You did, if I recall correctly, you did oral interp in high school, correct?
Whoa, that's a deep cut. Yes.
And then, did you do any of the one act stuff?
I think I did a little bit. For any who aren't familiar with our state's educational extracurriculars, oral interp is basically like a speech and drama thing, where it would just very much be about dramatic readings of material that was not your own. So kind of getting, wow, I'd never thought about oral interp in relation to streaming, but it's very similar. You know, I
The
will
reason And the reason I
go on,
ask,
go
and the
on.
reason I bring up both of those is because, and this is again a prelude to what we're going to talk about next with your streaming, is you like to do voices, and you've inspired me some. When I started doing Stardew Valley a couple weeks ago, I have on my phone a list of the what the voice is for each character, and I
Ah,
was thinking about you when I did it. I was like, oh, Vimberg does this, so I hope I'm not taking that from him, but I know a lot of people do. Point being is you do a great job of, I'm going to call it voice acting, is you
sure.
choose voices for, especially when it comes to Fire Emblem right now, but you're able to kind of give a persona to these characters that otherwise it's just like, hey Jack, let's go fight these bad guys. Yeah, Jim, it's been great. And I think that when you add a voice, it draws your audience in just a little more.
I would agree. And oral interpret, I did theater in college. There was one show I did where I was never on stage. I was just a voice through an intercom, and that kind of like clicked with me. I enjoyed doing that, and I enjoyed doing oral interp, and I think it kind of works into me not having a camera, so you can like more. I've had legitimately people come to my streams blind and be like, "Wait a minute, dude, are you doing the voices?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." They're like, "I thought that was the game." Like that's high praise.
That's awesome.
I'm ultimately an amateur. I have a small stable of voices that I do. You know, some of which kind of evolved as jokes, like my Strong Bad Wario voice, where I started out trying to voice Wario, and somebody was like, "Hey, that kind of sounds like Strong Bad." Or kind of my gravelly noir detective voice, and I feel kind of self-conscious doing it on the podcast. But I've got a few stables that I kind of bounce between. It's something I enjoy, and I think something that helps. You know, I'm realistic about streaming. I know nobody's going to have my stream up where it's just like, this is what, you know, this is what we put on for the evening. We're watching Vimbert. You're probably doing other things. You might be cooking, you know, doing some gaming of your own, studying if you're in school. And I feel like varying the voices up just kind of helps you to see, if you're not seeing the screen and the game doesn't supply its own voice acting, like, oh, this is a different character talking. So it helps those viewers who are audio only to more seriously enjoy.
Yeah, I agree, and it keeps people kind of on their toes because if you're not expecting it and something like that happens, again, it keeps me engaged, wanting to hear more. Yes, Nico Mio. So to fill you in, Vimbert, and anybody else who's interested, once a week I do Stardew Valley, or I'm trying to, and Gunther in Stardew Valley runs the museum, and
Mm.
we were deciding on what the voices would be, and Super Penny, who, if you're still here, Super Penny, you know, say hey. Um, he was there for most of it. So Super Penny was telling me like, okay, this is you do this voice, do this voice. So Gunther is an ASMR guy, and so when he
Oh,
talks, you're real close right here into the microphone.
oh, I hate that.
And I do, and everybody hates it. And so last week, Super Penny wasn't there for the whole stream, and we had a new person in. I don't know if you were there, Nico Mew, but I got to do my Joe Biden impression for Gunther. So that might be like where we're leaning, is where if I don't have to do the ASMR for Gunther, I might just kind of do my Joe Biden. And I have no range like you or our good friend Hingert, who also streams, which I need to get Hingert on
Oh,
the podcast too. I went to college with Hingert. He's a radio guy. And yes, it was Blue Fox, and he has an amazing range, does a lot of great things.
Hmm.
And I hope maybe someday that his radio career takes him into voice acting. That would be
Yeah,
so
that'd be
awesome.
great. And
Anyway, that
I think impressions can be a great place to start because if I have a character that's very bombastic, over the top, an example, Kiran from Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance, and Radiant Dawn, people know that is just this very boisterous character, and so I kind of try to give him a Zet Brannigan voice. Send wave after wave of me at the enemy until they surrender.
that's awesome. I think that's exactly it. You kind of have to just like you just choose a voice and you work with it and I don't know if it's too late for you and I to get gigs doing something. I've thought about that after college and after
Hmm.
doing some radio gigs. Was like, do I have a chance? Could I be the voice? I follow. Oh, what's his name? Is it Song Wong
Oh, Sungwon Cho,
on
Pro
Twitter?
ZD.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he does some awesome stuff. I think, but I'm beginning to realize, and this is nothing against him, and nothing against any voice actor, but you begin to see voice acting in animations like, oh yeah, I know that voice actor, like that person does this, and I recognize what shows that he's in because he's got a voice that sounds the
Yeah.
same, and that's fine. That's just how voice acting works until you change up what you're doing. Um,
And this might be an unexpected take coming from me, but I don't think I would actually want to get into voice acting professionally.
oh,
I'm happy to do my kind of amateur stuff, but I don't think I would want to chase it. You use the example of Sungwon Cho, who I respect him. He does a lot of great Let's Play stuff on YouTube, actually. I enjoy that greatly as well. But, he was just like grinding for forever, like putting out voice posts on Tumblr just to kind of build his body of work, and then he started getting roles and had to slowly build that up. And still, like, from what I've heard, because I have a few connections in the voice acting world, one person who was in there professionally, and then another acquaintance, this one's not quite as strong, who currently has like a fairly major role in a dubbed anime. And it kind of sounds like basically to get serious voice acting work, you have to live in like one or two cities in the US, neither of which are places I really want to live. And it sounds
uh,
like sometimes the pay
Los
cannot
Angeles,
quite be up to snuff. If you're not a
right?
big name. And yeah, LA and Dallas is what I'm thinking of.
Oh, Dallas would be. I never thought
Yeah.
about Dallas.
Dallas,
Must
that
be
might
somewhere
be,
on the East Coast.
yeah, it might be outdated information on my part. But I do love
I was
voice
also thinking
actors.
like Seattle.
Maybe I could see that. And I'm sure, people still have a lot of COVID protocols in place. It's probably a little
Sure.
more accepted, but yeah, I don't know. I don't. If the opportunity fell into my lap, I'd take it. But I don't think I ever want to be like, ah, yes, here is my Twitch voice acting demo reel. If you wish to contact me for a professional role, my business email. No, I don't want to do that.
Just visit him at Vimbert on Twitch.
Yeah.
As you can see below, Vimbert. We're talking with Vimbert. Vimbert here on Twitch, and I think that's a really good segue. Talking about voice acting, and not to get too far down the rabbit hole. Um, on that, but it's a great segue into some of the other stuff that you're doing. Primarily, and you can correct me when I'm wrong here. You are a variety streamer. There's no doubt about that.
Mhm.
But lately, you've been doing a lot of Pokeboomers and a lot of Fire Emblem. Talk about Fire Emblem, the games, because I am not. I've asked you before in your streams about like what is this game about and how do you go about it. And
Sure.
so, talk about Fire Emblem and that series of games, and you've been playing, and it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, Fire Emblem is something I've been into for quite a long time. To give just a brief overview, they're Japanese strategy role playing games that feature permadeath and, generally speaking, a rather high level of difficulty. The most recent game was Fire Emblem Three Heroes, as well as Fire Emblem Three Houses, both of which are on the Switch. It's primarily a Nintendo property, although it's not first party developed. Um, I got into them by, I think, the same way most of us in the US got introduced to them. I was like, hey, who are those sword dudes in Smash? When I was playing Melee. And I started up playing Path of Radiance, which is the entry on the GameCube. I've always enjoyed them because there's an element of luck your level ups with your characters, they don't always give you the same bonuses. So one level up you might get crazy high stats across the board. Another level up you might get one, two, maybe no stats. So there's a lot to go into. Like there's not one character who's just guaranteed to be good, basically. You know, unless it's somebody who comes in right at the end of the game where they're like, oh, hey, we need to make sure you can beat the game. Here's a dude who's amazing at everything in case all your people are bad. So I enjoy the strategy. I think the writing is a little all over the place. Some of the entries have not been good, but generally they go for a very like high fantasy kind of like some sort of like scheming and political drama. And like usually there's the big meme is like, oh, you're our friendly, wonderful kingdom and big bad empire invade. And you have to run away and then go traverse the entire continent and then beat the empire. But there's a lot that happens along the way, you know. I'm playing through Radiant Dawn right now, which is the one on the Wii. And there are a lot of undertones, like they tackle racism. They don't do it super well, but they do tackle racism, and there's issues of like, you know, nobility versus commoners because it's a very kind of Western medieval setting. I think it's a series that has a ton of potential. It occasionally does let me down, but I enjoy the stories, I enjoy the challenge, the gameplay, and, you know, as I mentioned to you, I got into gaming because of these very slow JRPGs, so I can't be the man doing the FPS. No good for my old man RPG reflexes. And, you know, they don't often feature full voice acting, so when I stream them, I can add my voice. I've been doing that with Radiant Dawn, and also, until very recently, I was doing a series of challenges, not entirely unlike Pokeboomers, a little more relaxed, perhaps, but similarly restrictive and like adding some more rules with some other people, and we would kind of all do it at once in kind of like a big old mosh, all streaming together and like kind of cheering each other's successes and cursing failures, or, you know, maybe vice versa if the other guy seemed like he was going to win.
Yeah, and that was fun where you're doing some of those collab uh, streams, and I think that again that's important when you vary things, and Fire Emblem has been kind of your uh, if I may say, Vimbert, I would say that Fire Emblem has been your bread and butter lately, and so I think that's important. It's
Fair?
kind of like what we talked about earlier, where it's not you're not playing it every day and you're not playing it all the time, but you're playing it enough where the people who like that are going to come in and watch it, and you vary it up where I think other people are like I said, oh no, blah 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 blah. Oh, I'm gonna go over here, blah 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 blah, and you bring that action and variety to
Yeah.
that game itself.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing that. Like, there was a returning character from Radiant Dawn because it's a direct sequel. Not all Fire Emblem games are direct sequels. Generally, they work off Final Fantasy rules where they are as tied to the other games as the devs for that particular game want. But I saw a returning character who was very minor, but he was like kind of magic mad scientist. And so I kind of gave him a very frantic voice, but also kind of like a little bit of a creepy undertone. So, you see, you have to obey the prince's words, hmm? And sort of varying it up not just through like tone, but also like kind of the frantic rate of his speaking. Like he's got so much in his brain that he needs to get out to these inferior idiots who just need to listen to him. From his point of view.
Right. Nico Mew saying that we like Ike, except for Beefy Ike from the Wii U one. Tell me who your favorite character is and why in Fire Emblem.
Oh god, that's a difficult choice. Ike is a pretty easy answer. He's the protagonist of Path of Radiance, and I guess appears in Radiant Dawn as well. I haven't met him in Radiant Dawn yet, but there's been people talking about him, and I have heard he's beefier. Hmm. I guess we go with. I guess we do go with Ike. Yeah, because he gets a lot of focus and development, and often in Fire Emblem games, you're the kind of you're a character who's often born into like some status. Sometimes they lose that status through revolutions or civil unrest, and you kind of have to be like a rebel prince or princess on the run. But Ike is just like he's just a dude. He's just of common birth. He's at the start of the game. He's just a mercenary, just taking on jobs. Like got to chase bandits out of a village. but through just kind of his natural charisma and his leadership abilities and the circumstances he's in, he's able to rise above his starting circumstances. And so you get more of an arc from him than you get from a lot of main characters. I would say a close second on my Fire Emblem characters is Hector, who is one of the main characters of the Fire Emblem we got over here that's just called Fire Emblem for the Game Boy Advance. First one they released over here, often called FE7 by the fans. Because he's a dude of noble birth, but he does not care that he's a noble. He just kind of wants to, like, go to taverns, get into brawls, and, like, fight dudes with his giant axe. He's great. He's a lot of fun. Not very complex on the surface, but brings a refreshing, like, straightforwardness to, like, other people will be like, oh no, Lord so-and-so is making these moves. Hector's like, well, we could just, rush in there and beat them until they start giving us answers. They're like, what? Lord Hector? So, I guess those two.
Asks, what do you think of the new Emblem trailer with the guy with the toothpaste hair?
Looks awful. I'm probably not going to play it. Because they're leaning so heavily on past nostalgia that it just makes me cringe. And, I think you could maybe make the design work, but so many other little circumstances are stacking up onto it. And with how bad... I haven't played Three Houses, to be fair, but Fire Emblem Fates put such a bad taste in my mouth about the franchise that I'm extremely cautious about any new games. I've been hurt before, Fire Emblem. You have to win me back. Why are you not outside my window with your boombox and a nice Valentine's box of chocolates? Although I guess with Fire Emblem Engage, that's what they're trying to do. Because they're like, look, old Fire Emblem characters, you like this. And I'm like, I do, but it's making me suspicious.
I forgot to ask you, so I'm going to say we're going to put a pause on Fire Emblem and go
Sure.
back to Pokemon. Because I forgot to ask you your favorite Pokemon of each generation. So, Generation 1, who's your favorite?
Generation 1 is Pidgeot. Not a whole lot of reason there. Was just a big fan of Pidgeot as a kid, and for a while we had kind of a meme going. I've kind of backed off from it because I kind of realized, like, maybe don't have the branding associated with conspiracy theories. But I referenced the birds aren't real kind of meme. It's all to throw off the non-believer's leafy tree. Don't pay any attention. There's this Twitter account where they tell the truth about how there were real birds, but they were all replaced by drones. And so I catch a bird in Pokeboomers, I name it Drone, UAV, Predator, something like that.
That was my favorite, by the way. I was rooting for it.
Yeah. So Pidgeot, basically just because I would use them frequently as a kid in Gen 2, but I'm picking it for Gen 1 because you got fewer options in Gen 1.
What about Gen 2?
Gen 2, I would actually have to say Natu and Xatu. Because, again, they're birds. I like the flying type. I think it's cool. And they have psychic, and they have kind of an interesting sort of totemic design that is not often repeated in Pokemon. They almost feel like they don't belong with the rest of Pokemon somehow. And I appreciate that. Also just, cool design, neat Pokemon, interesting typing. I tend to ramble on a bit. On my own streams, I'm deathly afraid of dead air, so please feel free to cut me off. We've already had to backtrack several times.
That's okay. No, and I forgot kind of my order of questions that I usually go with. And you being part of Take the Shot Media and the Pokeboomer situation, I got... No, we're fine. And don't worry about rambling.
Okay.
We've got time to fill, and it's all good. Generation 3, who do you got?
Generation 3, I would actually... Oh no, I'm blanking on the name. The bird. The Pidgey equivalent. I like playing. Yeah, the Starly line. Because I was like, oh man, Pidgeot's my favorite, but then Starly came in, just coming in hot with all these neat offensive tricks. Like, I like kind of sneaky moves, and just the first time I saw what Endeavor could do, I was like, oh yes. For those who don't know Pokemon,
Blaziken.
No?
Starly's definitely Gen 4. I lied.
Oh.
I led you astray.
Dang it. Well, what is the Gen 3 bird then?
Like Tailo and Swellow?
Oh yeah, Tailo and Swellow.
Wingull and Pelipper.
No, not Wingull and Pelipper. Tailo and Swellow, because the first time I saw what Endeavor could do, reduce the opponent to your current HP was like, oh, that could lead to some nice tricks. And my own Talo got performed very well in that season. So it probably actually unseated it as my favorite Pokemon overall.
Pellistorm. I
So
don't
far,
know
so
this
far.
one. Pellistorm, Nico Me. What is this? Where is this one from? I don't remember Pellistorm.
Gives me time to think about Gen 4.
Yes, please think about Gen 4 while I look at this Pellistorm. Water flying, introduced in Amuran region. Where is that? I don't know what that is. Is that the newest one? It looks like there is one. Well, there's a couple of them. The birds and the water birds, where I'm like,
Mhm.
that one looks stupid. Oh, it's the Pelipper evolves into Pellistorm.
Oh,
What? What? What
interesting.
is this blasphemy? Get this out of here. No, there's one that looks like those what are they called? He's a joke from Game Grumps. The video is called I Want Wingle.
Ah,
Okay. Well, Game Grumps is something that I do enjoy watching. Okay, what's the Cormorant? I'm
hmm.
pretty sure that's his name. Um Cormorant Pokemon. Oh, his name is Cramorant.
I'm also like fact checking myself because I'm like, was that
Perfect.
introduced in Gen 3 or was it Gen 4?
Thanks for
Okay.
sending that. I will check that out on Discord, Nico Mio. Okay,
Okay.
Generation 4. Vimbert, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I think my favorite Pokemon for Gen 4, just kind of off the top of my head, would be Bronzor and Bronzong.
Okay.
They occupy a very weird niche. I appreciate how their two abilities make you like kind of have to guess like, okay, which of its two only weaknesses are actually going to hit it super effective. And I again have caught a very good one in season 4 of Pokeboomers and has become a linchpin of my team.
Awesome.
Not
We're talking with
nothing more.
Vimbert from Vimbert. Vimbert from Vimbert. Yes, here on Twitch you can find him and find his VODs from the last several days, the last 2 weeks, as Twitch does. Um, Anything else on we covered Pokeboomers? Anything else on Fire Emblem? Again, I'm not as familiar with it, so I can't like ask you the deep digging questions on it.
Sure.
But is there anything else that people should maybe know about the game or why you would recommend it?
I would recommend it because I feel like it's a good way to like there's been very much a rise of games where you play them while doing something else. And Fire Emblem can be that if you're doing it casually because you take your turn and then the AI takes their turn to move and maybe try and kill off one of your units. It can be good to enjoy that way. Also, it's one of the few strategy RPG franchises that we've kind of got left. I feel like still when you talk strategy RPGs, a lot of people bring up, oh, Final Fantasy Tactics, which of course, Final Fantasy Tactics is great. We don't talk about the sequels, but that game's real old at this point, and I feel like a lot of strategy games do not get a lot of kind of love if they're strategy RPGs. We have Valkyria Chronicles, another series like that has some success, but outside of that, in the mainstream space, it's just kind of Fire Emblem that's holding up for major franchises, and it's a style of game that I want to see survive.
Gotcha. Again, we're talking with Vimbert. Find him here on Twitch at Vimbert, Vimbert,
Yes.
and we are about an hour and 20 or so into our podcast, an hour 15. I'm going to take a moment. I'm not sponsored, but if 1919 Root Beer would like to sponsor me, that'd be great. I love me a 1919 Root Beer. I got introduced to it in Minnesota while I was living there. It's made in Minnesota. It's great. It's brilliant. I love it. That's what I'm enjoying right now. Vimbert, are you enjoying any drinks right now?
Just some water. I had a little bit of like an apple cinnamon fall type tea before we started, just to make sure my throat was totally good to go. Usually just water is what I have. On occasion, I will, have an alcoholic beverage or six on stream, but trying to cut back on that a little bit. I forgot to bring this up before. I have mixed feelings about me being your 13th episode of the Leafy Tree podcast. Are you trying to use
Oh,
Vim
really?
luck to undo the unlucky 13?
I didn't know that. Well,
Yeah, I
that
just
makes
noticed it when you had the getting ready screen. I was like, oh, interesting. Is this a secret message from Leafy Tree?
maybe. What's everybody else drinking tonight? Looks like Nico Mew's having a Beppis.
Mm, good
Nothing
old
wrong with a good
Beppis.
Beppis.
More of a Boke
Um,
man myself.
a Boke?
Yeah, Beppis and
Do you
Boke.
like to snort Boke off the desk or what?
Oh god.
Just kidding. I don't promote drugs here. 13 is a very good number. Yes, it is, Nico Mew. Let's see. Before we go to our next subject, there's something else. No, there wasn't.
Oh my god. I forgot one important thing about Fire Emblem. If you're a weeb, like me, it lets you battle it out with anime waifus and grow them to become strong without being like some kind of cash grab mobile game. You can battle with your waifus. You can raise your waifus to be strong and conquer your enemies. See them laid out before you. Hear the lamentations of their people.
I like it. Let's see here. Why am I getting so many? People always seem to want to text me and Snapchat me while I'm doing this. Apparently, people don't know about the Leafy Tree podcast. No more! People, get to knowing it.
So inconsiderate.
I know. Say.
They have husbandos too. We have in Radiant Dawn. I have a buff shirtless wolf boy, perfectly fine husbando.
So, let's talk next with Vimbert from his Vimbert channel on Twitch. Let's talk about Shuffle Saturday.
Sure.
I didn't take part. I came and joined you on a few of those at the beginning, and unfortunately, as we mentioned before, we all have lives and life gets crazy, so I haven't been able to jump in on too many of those lately. Shuffle Saturday, I think, was a great idea. Is it something you came up with? Was it something you saw somebody else do? I don't want to take credit away from you by any means, but it's
Sure.
a great idea, especially for a variety streamer like yourself, and for maybe somebody who's getting into streaming. I think that Shuffle Saturdays or Shuffle insert day of the week here is a good idea.
I just like, the repetition. But my brain always wants alliteration. I like alliteration. So Shuffle Saturday, to explain, is I have a pretty large collection of games, most of which I've never played. I use a website called the Backloggery to have a game pool of 1,500. It will pick a random game out of those, and I'll play it for the next 30 minutes, unless I or chat use a limited resource to say no to that. Don't want that. And I can't completely claim credit for this. I've been open about this, but I've perhaps not been great about reiterating it lately. The idea was inspired by the streamer Proton John, who is truly one of the godfathers of Let's Playing on the internet. The man was posting Let's Play videos before YouTube existed. He was putting them up on Google Video. He does something on his streams that he calls Fortune Cookie, after the feature of Backloggery he and I use for this shuffling. And the man's a serious collector. He has like tens of thousands of games. What he will do is he would pull 5 random games out of his collection and then have his community vote on which game he should play for the next 40 minutes to hour and a half. And I saw that and I was like, okay, well, I don't really have a big enough following to make like live votes work that well, because he's a big streamer. I'm not. I'm very much F-list, Z-list, whatever. So I thought, how can I change it so I get more games in and kind of increase the chaos? So I very deliberately have bad games in there. Sometimes I'll pull a random game. It'll be Mary-Kate and Ashley's Planner for the Game Boy Color. And I'm like, all right, guys. And I have to try and make 30 minutes of content out of that. And, my chat can be like, oh, that's awful. And hit chat command and we'll pull a different one. Or they can be like, no, this is great. Please suffer, Vimbert. So I feel like it introduces people to a lot of games that they might not see. It introduces me to a lot of my games that I haven't seen. And it's generally just a fun, chaotic time. I've been actually working on. I'll tease it a little bit here. I've been working on a variant of it with a ROM shuffler. If I
Okay.
can get vast quantities of entirely legitimate copies of the games I own, where I can automate that switching and actually switch up the time. So it could be like I play a game for 7 seconds, bam, different game. Adapt on the fly, idiot. Or it could be, it lets me go for a nice leisurely 20 minutes and then it switches to another game.
You did that one week, didn't you?
I
Where it
did.
flipped you?
I did. That was a long time ago, basically just to make sure it worked. But I had a few technical hiccups. I intended to do some further testing on that. But yeah, that's Shuffle Saturday, kind of the origins and inspiration. I had played around with a couple other things for Saturday. I tried like Strategy Saturday, and I wasn't really liking that, and viewers weren't really liking that. And I was like, well, wait, what if I can just go into Chaos? Because, to quote my good friend and fellow streamer Drunk Emblem, Vimbert, you actually enjoy things that are bad. I'm a big fan of B movies. I love seeing a thing that's just so awful where you're like, what were they thinking? Not in a angry video game nerd way, but you're like almost like you're an archaeologist, like trying to understand. Okay, so they thought it was a good idea for me to have to hold down and press A to take the knife out of my boot, and then I can attack in a game that forces combat or something like that. Because usually I haven't played the game before, I don't have instruction booklets, and games so old they might not have tutorials, so I'm just having to figure things out on the fly. So I think it's a great amount of chaos. It allows for a lot of fun interaction. I
And you gave
love
me one.
Sharknado.
Oh man, I can't
Sharknado's
stand it.
great. But I think as
Oh,
far as like so bad it's good B movies, the gold standard is still The Room by Tommy Wiseau.
absolutely.
Or, bust out some classic Nick Cage with Vampire's Kiss. Just, perfection.
Had not seen that one. We had made it a thing when we were doing a group of friends and I. We had done a summertime like one shot D&D campaign, and our our what do you call it? Our routine,
Mhm.
our what we do is when we're done playing, we watch a shitty B movie afterwards,
Yeah.
typically. And so, oh, what do we watch? And I just saw this actually. This is funny. Now I don't even remember the name of the movie. Is it Star Troopers?
Oh, Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers, which
Would you
just
like.
celebrated 25 years just the other day or something.
Yep. Would you like to know more? With Neil Patrick Harris as, like, the scientist guy? Yeah, that is a fun, fun, bad movie.
So we watched that one a couple of years ago, and anyway, we watched all kinds of bad movies. Are Monty Python movies considered B movies? No, they're
They are,
considered cult classics.
they are considered masterpieces. I think
Well,
Monty Python are geniuses of comedy. Admired them as a kid. I actually just went to go see Monty Python and the Holy Grail not that long ago myself, and it was like, yeah, this still holds up. I'm still laughing. It wasn't just, no,
yeah.
Vimbert, you thought this was funny because you were an idiot child.
Um, Also, on the note of Monty Python and Monty Python's Flying Circus, Monty Python's Flying Circus was Saturday Night Live before Saturday Night Live,
It's true.
and it's the British version. And I have a feeling that Lorne Michaels probably drew a lot of what he made Saturday Night Live probably from them. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if he would admit to that or not, but I have a feeling that that's probably where he got the idea of doing Saturday Night Live.
Maybe. I mean, there is the concept of scenes of fair, where, there can be just the same general idea that can happen to occur to people, bubble up through the
Right.
collective unconscious or whatever, but
Right.
it could be possible.
Um. Yes, that's a classic line from um. Oh, geez, what's
Life
that
of
from?
Brian.
Yeah,
The
Life of
one where,
Brian.
where Monty Python takes on the life of Jesus. And they pull it off well.
Yeah.
Like, when you hear that, you're like, oh no, but no, it's great.
Blessed are the cheesemakers. That's not what he said. Um, we're talking with Vimbert, and I'm glad that that's something that you and I can share together. Vimbert is I'm a big Monty Python guy. I've got the whole Flying
Nice.
Circus series, and enjoy that. Uh, let's see here. So we've talked about Shuffle Saturday, Fire Emblem, and Pokeboomers being your big three. You started Sin Sunday, which, as a good Christian boy myself, is a little disturbing. But tell me more about it. You mentioned it earlier. What are some of the games that you're seeing or we're playing on Sundays? And we're playing the bad guy,
Sure.
sort of.
So the inspiration for this actually came from the Take the Shot media Discord. I think it was Hingert posted some kind of meme where it was like it was just a basic one where it was like everybody's saying, you know, video games make you violent and evil, but I don't want to be mean to the NPCs, and I'm like, yeah, can't relate. Uh, I will frequently like just casually go out of my way to be cruel. Like you know, like I talked about, you know, I'll take a Pokemon out back behind the shed, kill it off if I need to get an advantage. I often find that games where you can take evil options, like they can go either one of two ways. They can be like a little more dark and disturbing, like, you know, say Undertale, or they can be just you are a mustache twirling Saturday morning cartoon villain, which is fun in its own cheesy right, like Knights of the Old Republic. And I know not everybody can bring themselves to do those things, but you know, might they not be just the least bit curious what happens on the other side of the gaming morality? So I decided to do this as a public service. So far, I have done Undertale, Dial Town, Phone Dating Sim. That one was a little different because I just went out of my way to be a jerk to everybody. Surprise! That's basically what you are all the time in that game, so that one wasn't as familiar or as successful. And then I'm currently playing through Bioshock, although I'm having some qualms with the gameplay. Like I alluded to earlier, I'm not a big FPS guy, so some parts of the actual gameplay are causing some trouble for me. But you know, it's only logical. Like most people are like, "Oh, hey, would you like to rescue these like small children who have been like turned into these weird like uh, genetic material harvesting like creatures, or would you like to just like kill them, rip something out of their brainstem, and get more resources?" I'll be like, okay, yeah, yeah, harvest little sister, harvest little sister, harvest little sister. That was at the suggestion of my audience, actually. So I'm always looking for ideas for that. It's very much a new kind of thing for me, and I think mileage is varying wildly. I'm still kind of finding my footing for it, so it might not stick around, but I have fun with it. Oh,
Video
Roller
games
Coaster
can be
Tycoon would be
tremendously.
great.
Actually, see. Ooh,
Ooh.
ooh, that
I'm
would be
writing that
kind of
down.
fun.
I'm writing that down.
Do it. Yes, absolutely. Any ideas, questions, anything for Vimbert is welcome from chat. I shouldn't say anything. We will vet some of the questions. Like if you ask something stupid. Yes, there are such thing as stupid questions sometimes. Um, awesome. No, I'm glad that we can come up with ideas. Nico Mew, I would encourage you to go follow Vimbert along with everybody else. Go follow Vimbert here on Twitch, Vimbert.
Yeah.
All right, Vimbert. Here we're where are we at? We're at an hour 38 here on a Wednesday night. It
Yeah.
is the 9th of November. I'm just putting a little date stamp there for you and for me. One thing is, it's supposed to be snowing soon here, so I'm keeping an eye on that as well. Not to like uh take things away from you. Do you like Rocket League, Vimbert?
I've actually never played. It looks
I
interesting though.
despise Rocket League, and that's why Nico Mew brought it up. I
Wow.
lied to you, Nico Mew. I
Wow.
despise it.
Well, I've got a little bit of a spiteful contrarian streak in me, so maybe I have to give it a try now.
I will not be partaking in watching that stream, just so you know.
Oh no, the
Um,
loss of a viewer. Oh god, I can't do
um,
it.
lots of people like it and play it, as you know, and I
I
just
do,
don't
I
like
do.
it. So,
And that's fair.
um, let's see what. Dang it, Nico Mew. Let's see. Okay, lots of things to kind of wrap. We don't need to wrap up, but we're kind of on our tail end here. The last 20 minutes or so. We can go longer, no problem there by any means. So if we do,
Sure,
that's
sure.
totally fine. Unless you have things to get to, if you'd like to stream after this or something,
Nah.
I totally understand. But um, can Vimbert let the Leafy Tree audience in on anything coming up, any games you're planning on, or any
Mm,
collabs or anything. Can you let any of the secrets out right now? I
sure.
imagine not from Take the Shot Media stuff, because I know that that's kind of Hugh's deal. But
Yeah. And
what's the stuff that Vimbert can tell us?
sure. So, like I mentioned, I'm working on a variant using a ROM shuffler for Shuffle Saturday. Also, more stuff for Synday in the pipe. If I do dump Bioshock, I might, do another one where I play a dating sim and I'm just a total jerk the whole time. I also have my eye on, I did play this before already, but I'd want to play through it sober. A weird old bad adventure game. Who's your daddy? What a meme game. Harvester. I might be giving that a playthrough. Basically, I like to play through games blind that have a heavy story emphasis, so that's probably what I'll be doing. I'm looking at a few games. I'm still kind of debating, so I don't have anything I can tease for sure, but as usual, there is going to be kind of a break between Pokeboomers Season 4 and Season 5, so I want something that's like a solid, series to play through there. Yeah, I don't plan as far ahead as you do, so you've caught me a bit off guard with this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a guy,
No,
but
that's okay. I
I'm
think.
gonna
Oh, go
stick to
ahead.
my staples and keep experimenting along the way. Find new stories, theorize about them like a crazy person, maybe lend my voice to a character or six. We'll see.
I think that's awesome, and I think that's great that. And I didn't mean to like throw you off on that question or throw you off that. I'd like to have a plan. I'm a planning guy. I like to have a
Mm.
plan in place. Um, and and even the people who come and watch me are like, Leafy Tree doesn't have a plan. There's no plan there really, because I just say I'm like, hey, we're gonna do this, and people are like, okay, and then they wait 3 months and they're like, is it gonna happen or what's going on here? But uh, and so finally, we got some of these other things rolling. You talked about collaborations before with some of your games. Is there any of that you're thinking about? Whether that be within Take the Shot Media with or anybody. You talked about Drunk Emblem, who I
Yes.
also follow and think he's a fun streamer to follow as well. But this is about you, Vimbert. We're talking about you. Anybody that you've thought about, like, you're gonna call up and be like, hey, we're gonna do a collab stream and you're gonna like it.
I'm I'm very cautious about collabs, but there's nothing solid because I think I'm at my best when I can just I can not have any anxiety about like doing voices and just kind of ramble to myself like a crazy person. I feel like sometimes I can be a little too polite when I'm collabing with somebody, and I like let the silence hang a little bit because I think they're about to say something, and then they don't say something, and then I'm like, should I say something? Whereas if I'm on my own, I just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. I get motor mouth when I hit that start streaming button. But there might be perhaps another Fire Emblem collab. Drunk Emblem and I have talked about doing another one, theoretically, along with Underground Antihero, who joined us for the Path of Radiance series. Um, Maybe something with Hugh or Avalon, kind of on the Pokeboomers off season. I
Yeah.
don't know. And, I think it would be great to do something where, and, maybe this is something you and I could do if we sort of were able to tag team voice acting some game that was being played. I think that could be a really fun thing to do.
Sure. Yeah, that would be fun. I think that's something, and I think right now in the world of Twitch and YouTube gaming and Facebook gaming and all these streaming services, you got to find a way. And we talked about this earlier, Vimber, but you got to find a way to stand out and kind of make your mark. And I think that's
Yeah,
what's so special and unique about streaming, especially on Twitch, on any of these formats, is you chose the name Vimber and I chose the name Leafy Tree, and one may appear okay to me. One appears to be more like a play on words, right, because of what my name is, versus yours being like a character you kind of created in a sense. Same with Avalon, right?
sure.
Avalon Ironclad, he's created a character. And not that I'm a different person while streaming, but you get to kind of do your thing. And that's what you do. You do
Yeah.
your thing, Vimbert, and it sets you apart from your team that you're with and from others on this platform. And that's the whole point, is to like kind of stand out and just be a good person, be a good streamer, and be a good you.
Yeah, I certainly like to think so. You know, might not be unique enough for some people, but that's fine. Lots of streamers out there. Um, I immediately lost my train of thought. It was just such an inspiring speech. Apparently, I'm lost for words. Oh, I'm not only such a good person, you know, I do have sin day. Uh,
Fair. I think as we kind of wrap things up here, Vimbert, again, follow Vimbert here on Twitch, Vimbert. Go give him a follow. If I'm not on and if other people aren't on, I'm so glad. Sorry, this is kind of off on another trail, but that Twitch has not gotten rid of the hosting aspect of things yet. I host your
uh,
channel when I'm not on. At least
oh,
to my knowledge, it was still functioning when I jumped on here a little bit
yeah,
ago.
yeah, auto host. Yeah, you just can't actively host people anymore. Yeah.
You can't actively. What do you mean by that?
Like for example, when we do Pokeboomers, because you know Hugh does the podcast stream. Before
Right.
I would have my stream manager open on Twitch. I would type /host Hugh_gaming and just make
Right.
absolutely sure that his was like the channel recommended. If people were like, "Oh, Vimbert does the Pokeboomers thing on Friday, but it's on another channel," and so they could go to my channel and be guaranteed to see Hugh. Now it's all automated. I can't set that manual trigger while he's live, so I think it works, but I can't be sure. Oh,
Right. So
I
you
and
can set the list and
yes,
do
I
which
I
which I'm glad
remember.
for.
I remembered what I wanted to talk about. You brought up
Yes.
the change in our names. For a long time, I was just saying I lost my mind during COVID, and the result is what you see on stream. Uh, I also wanted to share a little tangent about the name because Vimbert is perhaps not common, but it is actually, in fact, a real name. It's a French surname. I don't have a drop of French blood in me. I don't know any French outside of just, parlez-vous or, c'est la vie or a few stock phrases, but I had, and I've told this story before, but I'll share it again. I came up with the name playing another strategy RPG, sort of like Fire Emblem, called Shining Force. I was playing the second game after heavy encouragement by my roommate at the time, Drunk Emblem, because I enjoyed the first game. And the first game, you play this very like square-jawed, heroic-looking, manly man. And Shining Force 2, the first thing the game does before they've shown you any gameplay, they're like, name this character, and it's like this baby-faced like kid. I'm like, this guy? This is my main character? This guy? And so like I just kind of sat there and was like, what's the most insulting kind of like poncy name I can give him? Vimbert. But then as I continued playing the game, I grew to like the character more and I grew to like the name more. So I've used it here and there for internet things.
I like it. I like it. That's a really good. I like that story, and
Yeah.
I think we've all kind of been in that situation.
And it's led to a few French people coming into my streams and being like, "Oh, you're American?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sorry. If you were looking for French language, that's not me."
That's kind of interesting as well. Before I ask you these kind of final set of questions, is there anything else that we missed or haven't highlighted about your channel and your streams that we need to touch on?
Sure. There is one thing I would like to talk about. One of the pillars of my streaming style, I would say, is I like to do blind playthroughs of games. I love to just be discovering things alongside chat, or, I can feel the anticipation from people when they're like, oh, he's getting to the good part. And I also like to, if I'm playing a story-based game, I can like kind of stop and be like, all right, here's where I think the story is going, and kind of apply my like sort of conspiratorial thinking and like try and build something out. And usually it's hilariously wrong. Um, and I think it's kind of part of that standing out that you mentioned. I think doing something blind is good because, you can give genuine reactions. You're not stereotypical YouTubering it where you're faking reactions or something. And if I don't do blind playthroughs, I like to do challenges, like Pokeboomers, although those are half blind as well. Or if I'm doing Fire Emblem, if it's one of the games I've already played, I'm doing a challenge like it's this competitive collab, kind of like Pokeboomers. So yeah, I like blind playthroughs, and I just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
No, and I appreciate you bringing that up because I think that's, I don't know if maybe directly from you, but me thinking about some of the games I have or the games that I'm going to play, Sonic Frontiers, I'm gonna plug for me quick, is I really am looking forward to a blind playthrough, and trying to, and I don't know, watching a trailer I guess kind of gives things away, but I'm not
Sure.
sure how the controls are gonna work. I'm not sure how I'm actually really nervous about it, but I think that that again makes it exciting and fun, and it makes you step out and makes you different from somebody when you take a game and you take a shuffle Saturday and you get dealt a hand where you're like, what the hell am I gonna do? And you figure it out and you make it fun. And you make it fun
Exactly.
for everybody, especially you, Vimber. You make it fun for everyone.
Thank you. And I think that you're very wise to be cautious about the controls for Sonic Frontiers because lest we forget, it's a Sonic game. And
Right.
like, I love me some Sonic Adventure too, but whew, I remember a
Right.
young Vimbert excitedly buying Shadow the Hedgehog for the PlayStation 2, new, being like, oh, the Sonic Adventure 2 was so cool. And then I booted up, I'm like, oh, he has a gun? Oh, oh no. It keeps burning us, but we keep coming back. I,
So
I,
I'm looking forward.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I don't know if you hold that kind of like a battered gamer syndrome outlook on Sonic, but I kind of feel like that sometimes.
Not yet, but we'll see. I mean, I
That
know
is
that I have
admirable.
been disappointed by some games, and Sonic included on a few of them.
That is
Um,
admirable. I admire the optimism. I don't think I could keep it up because I've just kind of checked out of some of the newer Sonic games. Yeah, don't forget Sonic 06. Exactly.
I'm really looking forward to it. I hope other people are. I hope everybody else. I just last night I was just kind of so. I don't want to say angry because that's not vengeful. I saw like I'm like 43,000 people are watching Sonic Frontiers right now, and I'm like, I want a piece of that cake, Vimbert. I want a piece of that pie.
I get it.
And hopefully I can, but because it's a new enough game, and we'll hopefully get a piece of it and get some followers out of the deal as well. Speaking of followers and Twitch and streaming, Vimbert Vimbert here on Twitch. He would appreciate your follow. I'd appreciate if you go
Absolutely.
follow him. Nico Mew, you should go follow him because you'll like what he does, and if you've enjoyed our conversation, anybody here, if you've enjoyed the conversation and kind of the character and getting a good read on the character that Vimbert is just through his voice and our conversation, you'll enjoy his channel. Go follow him on Twitch. Look at that. Look at that. Making people's days
Ahead of the
by
game.
getting you. Um, Last set of questions for you, Vimbert. We talked about it, and I think we should touch on it one more time.
Mhm.
Is your advice for people who are getting into streaming or playing video games? This is two-part question, I guess, because the first
Mm,
part is what would you recommend, and I think we talked about um, being a variety streamer.
sure.
Unless you really, really, really enjoy a game, my advice to you is to anybody out there as well is, yeah, play that game, but realize that you're gonna run out of content eventually, unless it's an
Sure.
MMO like League of Legends or Overwatch or something like that. But what's your advice to somebody who's just trying to get into streaming?
Sure. So my advice would be I think variety streamer is a good approach. It might lead to a little more slow growth because people can be like, whoa, I'm not sure what to expect from them. But my kind of guiding mantra when it comes to streaming and making content is make the kind of content you want to see or you would want to see if you were just whoever on the internet like happened to click into this Twitch channel, YouTube, TikTok, whatever it is you're doing. Because if you're making something that you would want to see, I think it's going to be more fun. You're going to enjoy it better. That's going to come through in what you put out. And then, because, I do play some games that I don't enjoy on Shuffle Saturday. I know that's shocking. Barbie licensed
What?
games on the Game Boy Color occasionally come up, and I don't like them. But I enjoy the chaos of it. I feel like if I really forced myself to like drag myself through games just because they were popular, people wouldn't like it as much. People would be like, oh, hey, he's not really that enthusiastic. Like, this is not fun. You know, there can be some schadenfreude if you see somebody kind of like suffering or having a bad streak of luck. But if somebody's just not having a good time, you know, they're maybe like, being like, okay, guys, we're going on to the next room. Like, it's not going to be good. So make the sort of stuff you would want to see, and hope that there are people out there who kind of share your sense of aesthetics. There's a lot of people out there in the world, so eventually you'll hit the right audience. No. I do like. Do not misinterpret. Actually, I know you said a JK, but I actually want to talk about a Barbie game that I played on Shuffle Saturday that was lit. Secret Agent Barbie Royal Jewel Mission or Royal Jewel Heist for the Game Boy Advance. Legitimately the second best Metal Gear Solid game I have played. It's Barbie being like side-scrolling stealth action, and there's so many ways you can like twist and break the levels in your favor that it just becomes like hilarious. Like you get a ring on the first stage that makes you invisible, and so you can like sprint past like half the level before it recharges, then you duck into like a shadowed alcove, and it's a lot of fun. So Barbie, like, big ups. Every now and again you can put out a awesome game.
Is that what happens? Is Ken gives her the ring and then she becomes invisible to him?
No, it's some sort of like she's already like a spy agency, and like Ken is like her like voice with an internet connection, like the mission control guy.
Like in Bond.
He is the Q.
Ken is Q.
He is the Q. He's like, all right, Barbie, for this mission, you have your invisibility ring and your, oh god, what was another one? It was like a smoke bomb that looked like a compact. There was another one where she had a little robo dog that you could use to distract the guards, and I found out you could use it to like lure guards halfway across the stage. So you could just like, all these times where you're supposed to be more sneaky, you can just go and go and go. And, you know, if anybody wants to introduce their kids, if you're old enough to, or like someone younger, maybe, you know, a niece or nephew, cousin, whatever, to like kind of more stealth games like Metal Gear Solid, you know, get them primed for the Hideo Kojima or other such games like that. It is a stealth game that features no violence, because if Barbie gets caught, her health just starts to like go down. It's like a visibility meter. But, you know, she isn't like punching dudes out, and like, you know, she isn't getting roughed up. So it manages to be surprisingly wholesome. I legitimately might give it a full playthrough one of these times. Like, and that's a sentence I never thought I'd say. What is my life?
That's funny. You heard it here, folks. Vimber's gonna play a Barbie game. No. You know, we've talked a lot about your stream. We've talked about some of your influences and those things. If you want to, I know this is putting you on the spot a bit. Can you give me the top 3 channels that you would recommend to go watch, whether they be variety people, maybe it's something specific. Who are your top 3 Twitch, YouTube people to go watch if someone wants to get started or they're interested in similar games to you?
Oh boy. All right. Well, for my personal tastes, of course, I'm not going to count these in the 3 because they're basically automatic. But of course, Hugh Gaming and the Valen Ironclad TTSM, my friends in Take the Shot Media, they're great. I mean, I hear there's this Leafy Tree guy. I don't know what he does.
Don't promote me. You're never here, so whatever.
As far as top 3 channels, I would recommend Proton John. He is here on Twitch and also has a YouTube presence. He has the stream type that directly inspired Shuffle Saturday. So he has a similar level of chaos and community involvement, and is just a really fun guy on the whole. Been doing Let's Playing and streaming for a long time. Very good at it. I would also recommend, let's see, Manly Badass Hero over on primarily YouTube. He does playthroughs of very story-based games where he has a very, like, sort of, he's the guy I imitated way earlier in the podcast, where I made him sound a little bit like Critical, but he just has a very kind of calming voice as he kind of guides you through these often horror games that have a story focus, so it can help to, like, kind of ease you into it. Like, you know, there might be something, you know, a little bit spooky going on, but you just have this calm dude who, like, you know, maybe, like, a jump scare happens and he's like, oh, hello there. And I feel like I do kind of, like, the same sort of things when I've played horror games. I'm similarly kind of unfazed. Like, I'm not trying to make myself sound tough or anything, but jump scares don't really get me, so I'm just like, oh, hey, what's up? Like there was one time I tried to like I kind of did myself like, oh hey, I know you're trying to like chase me and kill me, but like, what if we could like work together on a business deal? And then of course it caught me and killed me. And then I would also recommend. Let me think. Let me think. Oh yeah, my buddy Drunk Emblem. He plays a lot of Fire Emblem, which has recently been a major focus of the channel. He was following along with us in Pokeboomers too for a while, but then kind of life got busy, I think. He's had some personal circumstances lately, but also a good dude. And does lots of challenges where if he messes up, he will pour himself a shot live on stream. His day job is a bartender, so it can be very interesting if he drops like some deep knowledge about like beer and alcohol that you might not know. And he also has a channel point redeem where just in the middle of his game you can just force him to stop and take a shot. And so, he'll probably start playing worse. So it can be kind of fun to mess with him in that manner. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
So those are my three.
Good recommendations. Let's see here. Well, to kind of wrap things up, Vimbert, Vimbert here on Twitch. Vimbert, you talked a little bit about YouTube. Do you still have a presence there?
Yes, I am on YouTube. Mostly it's just a VOD upload channel because I quickly realized that Twitch wasn't going to save my ramblings forever, and I was like, I must archive this for future generation. No, I just wanted to be like, if somebody happened to find me after I've been streaming for a while, and they heard about something like Pokeboomers, where it had been going for a while, and they were like, oh man, I wish I could have seen him doing, Gen 1 or Gen 2. Well, lo and behold, it is all on YouTube. What is my channel name on YouTube? I think it might just be Vimbert. Hang on. In the meantime, I will give an unexpected fact about myself that most people might not know. Just kind of a fun little tidbit. I have a deep phobia of dogs. I'm really, really canine phobic. And people don't expect that. Some people ask me, like, were you bitten as a kid or something? I don't know. I don't think so. But, like, I see a dog in real life, and it's like, if it's a bigger dog and, like, running up at me, I will freak out. I cannot keep my cool. My YouTube channel name is just Vimbert. I could drop a link to it in your chat if you are okay with that.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Because, they have that whole like random string of characters.
Right.
There it is.
You go, folks.
In the chat.
Find him on YouTube. You can go find Vimbert there as well. Again, find Vimbert here on Twitch at Vimbert. Vimbert! We filled nearly 2 hours. Is there anything else you want folks to know, or anything we missed?
I think the only final little tidbit is that I am something of a bisexual disaster. So occasionally, I'm playing a game like Fire Emblem where there's the hot anime waifus and husbandos. I'll just not be able to stop myself from getting down bad. And just be like, I'm sorry, I was distracted.
It happens to the best of us.
And, if you are of a queer disposition, try to make my channel a very safe space for that. Don't tolerate any sort of hate or anything. So, we should all be free to be who we want to be. I will climb down from my soapbox now.
I was going to say, hey, I think that's a great plug, and I think a great way to end our stream. Vimbert, thank you so much for your time. Stick with us here before we end stream, because I'm going to have you give us a choose for us where we're going to go from here. So hold on there. Again, Vimbert, Vimbert. You can see it over there to the side down below next to Vimbert's little channel there. Want to say thanks a couple of weeks ago to FJ1482 for the follow. And please, if you like the podcast or anything that I've talked about or I have planned, please follow the channel. I'm really, really close to getting 50. And so, not that I can't, I don't know, Nico Mew, you know more about this. You probably know more about it, Vimbert, I guess, is that I don't know if I can do stickers without being an affiliate or not.
You cannot.
I want to. I cannot. So I've got some plans. Nico Mew's going to be my artist. That's why she's got the little paintbrush thing going on. So we got to figure that out. But I'm only a few follows away. So I'd appreciate that if you like the channel. Thanks so much for making this possible on that side.
And thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
Absolutely. I'm glad we could make it happen, and I'm sure we'll either collab again or we'll do, in a while, we'll have you back on the podcast as well.
We shall meet
Let's
again, Leafy Tree.
You got it. Coming up next week, we've got Competitors Ring. That's where we talk about esports and what's going on in that world, including League of Legends. Overwatch 2 is now launched and rolling, and they've been doing some fun things. We talk about Pokemon trading card game, Pokemon video game. Sometimes I talk about Showdown, actually. Pokemon Showdown, they have a ladder ranking, which is very interesting, and we checked that out about a month ago. We talked about that and talk about Blood Bowl. Trying to figure out an X-Wing thing, and I've been trying to talk to my
Ooh.
X-Wing community about how to get a ranking system worldwide done because there's a lot of X-Wing being played, especially on Tabletop Simulator on Steam
Mm.
right now. We talk about anything you competitive games you'd like, except for Rocket League, Nico Mew. We talk about any of them and the rankings and what's going on. So you're welcome to give me suggestions over on Twitter or send me a message here on Twitch, and we'll try to figure it out for next time. The following week is Knowledge is Power, an industry discussion. Got to decide on what our topic's going to be. I had an idea on my before this podcast, and I forgot to write it down, and I don't remember it. But
Oh
any
no.
ideas on just like industry things?
Oh, me? This was
What
the
was it?
choice?
Well, no.
Oh.
This was you. You were my choice for
Oh, okay,
game talk,
okay.
wh-
I
which
panicked.
happens every second week of the month and the first week of the month. So coming up in 3 weeks, we will have I have no name for it, but we will most likely be continuing our discussion on Nintendo franchises, and I believe we are going to jump into one of the greatest franchises of video gaming of all time, and that is Mario.
The
And we're
Wahoo
hoping
Man
to do that.
himself.
Yes, I'm excited. I love Mario. I love Nintendo, even though a lot of people don't because they're a big corporation that silences people. I don't know. They've done some pretty amazing things. They're an innovator in the gaming world, and so I like talking about them and their product because I have their products and I enjoy their things. So I'm looking forward to that. Don't forget Stardew Valley. We've got that coming up once a week. It's the viewers' farm. It's your farm. It's called Stank Juice Farm. If you're interested in coming and hanging out, you choose what happens. What we plant right now, to give a brief, is we're doing a floral farm. We're trying to grow flowers. Our name is Cian, but it's spelled Sean, S-E-A-N. Sean is a they, them, and we have not done any romantic encounters yet. And we are doing the Joja Mart. I've not done that before, the Joja Mart route, so we're doing Joja Mart, which everyone's like, ew, gross, Joja Mart. So Cian on Stank Juice Farm, find me, turn the notifications on for Leafy Tree, and we'll be playing some Stardew Valley once a week. Want to play Sonic Frontier? Once I get it, Sonic Frontier is coming in hopefully tomorrow, but the snow might stop it, and I'm gonna be upsetty about that. But we're gonna play that on stream. As soon as I get it, we're gonna start playing it. Cian has to date everyone. Oh, geez, Rick. Everyone. Oh man, Nico Mew, you better be there. You gotta be there to make those choices. Um, let's see. We're also playing Tunic on the Xbox. I'm hoping to jump back into a little Blood Bowl, but that's kind of off in the distance. We're also playing The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword, so trying to rotate between Tunic and that. And I'm also wanting to get back into. I need to probably do an update on it probably tonight. But Star Wars: The Old Republic. I'm a big fan. Haven't played in a while. Used to do a stream on it back 3 years before I had my huge hiatus. I think I want to, excuse me, try to do that again. Spyro the Dragon. I played that on the Xbox. Want to try doing that again. Let's see, what else? That's it. That's it. I think I've covered all my games. I've covered everything.
Geez,
So on
just
that
that?
note,
So few options? You know, just like.
so, yeah, I know. There are 7 days in a week, and if I play Sonic Frontiers, Stardew Valley, oh, I forgot about Super Mario Odyssey. We're playing another playthrough on that. Tunic, um, Skyward Sword, Star Wars, Spyro, Blood Bowl. What else? What else do I want to play?
Many, many things. So
That's
many
8.
games, so little
I'm
time.
missing a day.
Dang.
Actually, that's only 7.5, but it's fine. So on that note, I will click to this page. Happy trails, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Vimbert, thank you again for being on the Leafy Tree podcast. And because you are my guest, we're going to go on a raid. what game? I'll give you the option of game. Would you
Okay.
like to raid? We've got the choices of Dungeons and Dragons. We've got God of War Ragnarok, which is the new one. Let's see, scrolling down here to the people who will appreciate our raid. Cult of the Lamb.
Yeah.
Somebody is playing I Am Fish. Somebody's playing League of Legends. Someone's just chatting, but that looks like God of War.
Let's
Minecraft or Overwatch.
let's go with D&D. I'm a big tabletop gaming fan, so let's give
All
old
right.
D&D some love.
Let's see now. I got two options here, and I really like the one, and the other one I'm kind of new to. And these guys are probably in the middle of. Oh, they're in their post session, so we will go raid these guys. Okay, we are gonna go raid. Channel raid. The Grouch Couch.
It's a
They are
great name.
playing Dungeons and Dragons right now, and they've got some kind of cosplay stuff going on. They're kind of fun. The few times I've been to their channel, so we'll go to raid them. Thank you everybody for being here. I appreciate it. Happy trails once again, Vimbert. Thank you, and we'll see you down the road.